So I think I would like to first show you basically the end result. So like what's how far you could get if you can actually do the thing that I promised. So building interactive animated reports. So this is a Streamlit app. I hope many of you recognizes it from the design. And there's an ipyvizzu chart in the center. You can recognize it from the Vizzu logo and the bottom right corner of it. And basically, it's an interactive chart, so the user can just extend the time frame. This is actually how much revenue different music formats generated in the US. And you can change the time frame. You can adjust the values for inflation. You can switch from revenue to volume using these Streamlit widgets or controls that are put here. You can just aggregate all the values by format. You can add more formats. You can either with these buttons, or you can select some with this. So you can just remove the tape data, and it goes away. And we can also sort these by value. So as you can see, a user without any knowledge of Python or Streamlit, a business user even, could just come here and generate some views for their own. And because of the animated way these views are being connected, it's at least we hope is a lot easier to follow along and understand what they just changed. And also in the background, there's like an animated story being created. So if I click on this download story button, then an HTML file is being downloaded to my computer. And if I mean, this is just a very early implementation of this feature here. But if I open it, then I have actually an animated presentation that contains all the different steps that I took while I was fiddling with the report. So as you can see, I just extended the time frame to the right. I removed some years from the left. I adjusted the values for inflation, then switched to volume, and then aggregated everything over on the independently from the year. And so you have these controls beneath the chart via which you can, or anybody basically can, control the animation. This is an HTML file that you can send over in an email and anything like that. And you can actually even seek the animation yourself. So you can seek it like this and make it really easy for anyone to understand what changed from one view to the other. So yeah, that's like the most complete form of using Streamlit and Vizzu together, and I just wanted to give you this very quick overview of what's possible, and then I'm going to now just dig deeper into how it's being made and how you can build similar tools, similar stories and reports on your own. There are two things I wanted to mention before I dig deeper. First one is I'm going to have together with Zachary Blackwood from Streamlit, 90-minute tutorial on all this. So this is going to be my talk. Will be a quick overview of everything being used here, and then from I think so like 3 hours from now, we are going to have the 90-minute tutorial where we will just teach you the ropes of all this. And by the end of that session, you will be able to start building your first interactive animated data stories, but also interactive animated reports within Streamlit using ipyvizzu. So I would encourage you to just join that session too. And there's also one other thing. So everything we do is free and open source. And as you can imagine, we always try to keep on understanding what is going on and how our tools and our technology is being perceived. So I will share you a link to a survey, a form that I would really like to ask you to fill towards the end of the session, maybe during the Q&A, which I will definitely want to leave some time for, because your feedback helps us a lot in understanding how to move forward and how what we built is being perceived. So thanks in advance if you take the time and fill that survey. So Vizzu, the company that I'm representing, very shortly, we built a generic chart morpher. So we have an engine that can generate all different types of charts and can seamlessly animate between them. It's more flexible than any similar data visualization technology out there. And the reason for that is that we use a single logic to generate different types of charts. And because of the single logic, we can just interpolate between the charts that are generated on our engine's interface. This is a novel approach. We too, we're quite surprised that nobody else tried to build charts this way, but we're happy that our technology is quite unique in this sense. And the next logical question would be why we built such an engine. And so we're actually working towards this vision of building animated, so like a new graphical user interface for data in general. And we think that such a flexible and data visualization or data morphing engine that we have would be the cornerstone, the central element of such a graphical user interface that would enable people with like end users, not experts like yourself, but mostly basic business users, to analyze data, to build animated stories, to reuse the insights that they found on reports and dashboards, or to even use them for forecasting and planning. And that's what we're working towards. So the animation bit, and then initially we focused on storytelling, actually, because that's where the use case and the benefits of the animated data visualization technology that we have were most apparent. So why we focus on animation? I mean, very briefly, animation helps people understand different views of the same data set, basically, and the connection between these different views, different charts. So here are 4 charts showing the same data, but the relationship between those might not be obvious, especially for non-experts. Whereas if I connect these views with the use of animation, everything becomes very clear. So it's no further explanation is necessary, basically. And that saves a lot of bandwidth, I mean, mental bandwidth for people looking at a chart or a story, because it's just so much easier to understand what's going on there. Also, like a couple of very basic examples, you can do drill down analytics, like show the relationship between a composite index and its components a different way, again without further explanation being necessary. You can show the components of a stack chart and just show it very easily if a component goes against a trend, again with the members of the audience being crystal clear about what you're about to say here. You can just switch between aggregates and distribution over time, like we did within the Streamlit app. You can show change over time, so the animation basically gives you a new dimension to chart to use on your charts, which is time itself. And then you can build these kind of racing bar charts that were so popular at one point that they were banned from the Data is Beautiful subreddit. And also you can just turn one chart into a whole narrative, into a whole story. This one about mobile phone providers, and initially with the pie chart we just saw the number of phones they produce, but by adding the profit that they're making, we can actually see here that there are these leagues of companies that generate very different amounts of money from producing basically the same or very similar products. And we have also a sense of magnitude between these companies, like Apple is, how dominant Apple and Samsung is compared to everybody else. So something about our technology, the engine that I mentioned to you is written in C++. We used it in-house when it was ready. We built stories and interactives, partly for the Data is Beautiful subreddit, where they got really, really popular. So we gathered over 200,000 upvotes and 20 million views there with only a handful of stories. Then in September 21, we released our JavaScript, open source JavaScript library for developers. And after that, we turned our attention to data scientists. And so ipyvizzu is out there being an open source charting tool since March 2022. And we added the storytelling bit that basically just puts these buttons under your charts that I showed in the first example, via which you can build, present, and share, or like present your data stories. And ipyvizzu Story is also, again, an open source tool that you can install from pip or conda to a lot of different types of notebooks and other tools, and you can build, present, and share interactive animated data stories with that. And the open source approach gave us a lot of integration opportunities that were mostly done by members of the community, for whom we are very grateful for. And then actually Streamlit is a great example of that. So Zachary, who I'm going to have the tutorial with in 2 hours and 48 minutes, was the one actually who integrated Streamlit with ipyvizzu and created a bidirectional component that I'm just going to, give you some examples of. So without further ado, let's get down to coding. I prepped some materials for you to make it easier for you to follow along. You can either visit this with using the bit.ly link, bit.ly/vizzu-pydata-global, or just use the QR code that's now on the screen. It will like redirect you to this. Sorry, I don't have it here. Let me quickly bring it up. But you should arrive at a GitHub folder within the Vizzu workshops repository called PyData Global, where you will be met with a friendly welcome note and a ton of useful links. Like, I think the most important ones are these two apps that I'm going to show you. And then there are a couple of ideas on how you could start individual work. And I think also very importantly, to the very bottom, there's like a Slack link. If you click on that, you'll join our Slack channel where you'll meet with fellow Vizzu users and all of us from the Vizzu team. So I would encourage you very strongly to join our Slack if you start using our tools, because it's just better to start learning something new in a community, and we have a very supportive community actually. And within this repo folder, you have a couple of subfolders. So within the notebooks subfolder, you'll find 7 notebooks in total. I will only show you the first one right now, but you have a chance to gain deeper understanding of how ipyvizzu works. And I also prepped some sort of playground notebooks with some suggestions within there, how you could gain an understanding into the logic and the syntax and the code structure of ipyvizzu. So I'm going to first show you this first notebook. This is already here. Let me see if no. I'm just going to restart it because I didn't have the time to remove everything, and I just want to show you the bits and pieces one by one. So the only thing you have to understand right now about ipyvizzu is that it has you can install it again by using pip or conda, and then there's a single method called the animate method that you will use from this package. And you call it once with the right parameters, you will get to a static chart. And then if you call it once again, that on the same chart object, it will turn that chart into another one in an animated fashion. So you don't have to deal with the animation bit. That's something we do in the background. Let me really quickly run this one while we're talking so that it loads the data. The animate method has actually 3 args. So you have to add the data to your chart. We are working with Pandas data frame right now, and so it's really easy to start using it, I believe. There's a configuration bit where you say how your chart should look like, and then there's the styling bit, to adjust the look and feel of your charts. You also have the opportunity to fiddle with the animation options. We try to make it so that you don't have to, but there are certain cases, like for example, when you have a racing bar chart and you want to really speed up the transition between one slide to the other, or one state to the other, that you want to just make it really quick, and it's all about like you decrease the duration of the animation to 0.1 seconds, and there you go. So let me show you a really quick example of how this whole thing works. So I haven't installed ipyvizzu because it's already on my system, but this is how you could get started. And then we import pandas, and from ipyvizzu, we basically import the chart object and the 3 other objects that I mentioned to you. We read a CSV file that's actually the Titanic data set with an additional column of count here. And we say that the P class is a string, so that ipyvizzu won't think that this is a value, such as the age or actually passenger ID, I think, should also be used as a string. And then we create an empty data object here and call the addDF method of that data object and just add the data frame to it. So basically now we have a Vizzu or ipyvizzu data object with the data frame being loaded into it. And now we're going to just create an empty chart object for which we set the width and height for, and animate, call the animate method just with the data object. So you don't have to have all the 3 components, all the 3 objects, but it only creates an empty chart because there's nothing to show here. We just added the data there. And basically we create the first chart around here when we once again call the animate method and use the config bit, where we add the count, so the number of passengers basically, to the x-axis, and the sex of the passengers to the y-axis. And we also add the counts, the number of passengers on the label, and add a title to the chart. And if I run this, like this is the static chart that I mentioned to you that appears right away. As you can see, because we added the count on the labels, the number here also appears on the markers, and we automatically aggregated the count values. So it was like 1 per each row, but ipyvizzu automatically summed them up. We have different like additional aggregation logics like min, max, and mean. So you can, but by default we're summing the values that are being put there. And if I add another category, the survived, which shows whether the passenger survived the crash or died in it, and add it also on the color scale, then we get to a stacked bar chart where the people died and survived receive a different color, and also again automatically the number, the count value is being aggregated and shown on the chart. And as you can see, the position of the label changed, so instead of being written on the right side of the bars, which is okay for a normal bar chart, they are now written within, beneath, so like in the center of the markers and the little rectangles that represent the data, because we always try to automatically adapt to the chart being shown and use data visualization best practices in every case. And now just one like a couple of additional examples here. And first I'm going to comment out these lines here is if I remove the survived from the x-axis, as you can see, it's sorry, yeah, it's actually, it changed it. No, sorry. Yeah, this is how this should look like. I think I fiddled with it the last time I did. So if I remove the survived from the x-axis and leave only count there, and add survived to the sex where it was just like next to it, then we get to a grouped chart as easy as that. And as you can see, I forgot to comment out the styling. So I also automatically changed the color palette to use different colors for died and survived than the default ones that were blue and green. So the red and green is a better fit. And there are a ton of other things I can change. So I can just turn these rectangles into circles. No, sorry, yeah, like this. And then I can just, since these are circles, I can add the same value, the count, to the size of these. And then I can switch the coordinate system to polar, like this. And then we end up with a chart that no one understands. So that's yeah, I mean, that's the downside of having a generic charting engine, that you can actually create charts that don't make sense. This one is it's a sort of like a lollipop chart. It's pretty readable. With the polar coordinates, it won't be. So yeah, that happens. And you also have the opportunity to filter the data being shown. So right now we're going to only leave the markers or representing people who were traveled on first class. And as you can see, that again changes everything in an animated fashion. So that would have been the quick summary of how this thing works. And once again, I can tell you how important it is that you will have a chance to dig deeper in the tutorial that starts roughly 3.5 hours from now. In order to make it easier for you to start, we have actual integration with Streamlit, this app called the Vizzu Builder app. So you don't have to start learning this quite abstract syntax, because we understood that it might be a little too hard for people. Which makes perfect sense. And so now if you go to Vizzu-Builder, the Streamlit app, this is where you'll end up with. You can use sample data or use your own CSV file, and then yeah, you can set what columns are categories and values, because those are important, but not for now. And then you have the chance to add filters. But basically here you can configure your chart. So I'm going to just add year and yeah, let's see, quarter. And then I'm going to just add the items sold, and the aggregation logic should be sum. And I just click on create charts, and this app, and it's a little slow because there are a lot of things happening, and my screen is being shared, and then there are a lot of things happening on the front end. You can get these error messages, but they will disappear, and you basically end up with a list of charts that are being generated. So the different options to create Vizzu charts using these two categories, the year and the quarter, and the single value, the items count. And for all of these charts, you have the option to check out the code for and copy and paste. And if you copy and paste it to a notebook, it will work by default. You might need to update the reference to the data, but that's the only thing you need to change for them to work. But you can also just add them to a story. So if I click on a couple of these, and again, something is happening in the background, which can be quite slow, but it works very well. So yeah, I clicked on this chart, add chart to story, and then this one. And so right in the bottom of the whole thing, what you have is again an animated data story that you created just by clicking around, which contains all the charts that you clicked on. You add it to the story, and you have the opportunity to download that story, similarly to how I showed in the beginning, but also to see the code. So we think it's an easier way to. So here is like one slide, and then the code for that slide, and again the code for the next slide, and the next slide. So we think that it's a lot easier to get started with ipyvizzu using this builder app. And also, if you go to the intro to Vizzu and Streamlit app, then you will have a lot of examples into adding interactivity. So actually utilizing this integration, the bidirectional component that Zachary built. Here's like a super simple example where I can just click on swap, and the category and the value on the axis are being swapped. Or here's another very simple example where with the slider, it's again the music data that I showed in the beginning. So you have the chance the user has the chance to just change the year, and then the chart here adapts to it. You would be surprised how easy it is to do this. I mean, I'll try and really quickly, because I didn't have the time to pick it up, and now I'm on uncharted territories. So yeah. Let's yeah, here we go. So this is the code for that specific chart, the slider. As you can see, we have here a Vizzu chart. It's basically the same thing. We have the slider that sets the year value, and then the only thing we have here is just one animate method where the filter is being set dynamically based on the year value. We have one grouped bar chart. We're using the group bar preset here, not just a simple config bit, and then some styling, and then that's it. So we fiddle here with the animation options, so to make it quicker. But that's it. So it's like 50 lines of code, including importing the packages, and you'll end up with an app like this. So yeah, very quickly, this is what I wanted to show you. There are a lot of other things. Because of the bidirectionality, you can even build reports like this one where so again, it's the music revenues over years, and I can just click, yeah, we have the nice tooltip, but you can also just click on one element, and we will just drill down into that year and then see it like what it contains. And then if I click anywhere else, we go back to the original view. So you can add interactivity in a very intuitive fashion. And there are other ways. We work with the editable data frame, and there are a lot of other examples. You can always fork the app and create your own. Again, I would encourage you to visit or check out the recording of the tutorial we will have with Zachary. So you will have a much better understanding of what's going on here. And now I come to the bit that I mentioned in the beginning, so that I would really love to ask you to give me feedback, give us feedback. It's at bit.ly/Vizzu_feedback. And also you can use this QR code. It would take like 2-3 minutes of your time to answer all the questions. I would be very glad if you could do that for us. And in the meantime, yeah, I'll just keep it here for another 15 seconds. In the meantime, we will just, since I only have 4 minutes left, I would like to ask you to start filling out the form, but also I will stop sharing my screen and get back to AirMeet and listen to any questions you might have. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Peter.
Hey, Prashant.
Amazing project. I am looking at some questions. The questions from Tina is that, is this, I think it's about how much are all the functionalities open source?
I think I can see the questions in the. No, I can't. Sorry. Sorry. So, what was the question? Because it's really hard to hear you, honestly.
Sorry. Um,
Are all these functionality open source from Dina, right?
yeah.
Okay, so yes, all the functionality is open source, free and open source, and it will remain that way. We are now working on building an end user SaaS tool, so something that a no code tool that people can use without the expertise that you all have, but. But we will keep the open source bit because we think that it's really important for us to have the to keep the open source foundation of our technology and to get the feedback and the expertise of users like you. But everything I showed today is open source. And thanks for all the positive comments on within the chat. And again, thanks if you have the time to fill out the form. Wow, we have a ton of people here. That's so great. Does anybody have any other questions? I received a heart from Dina, I believe. I'm not sure, but thanks. And yeah, again, you can also watch because I know we are in parallel with the keynote. I mean the tutorial session with Zachary. So I totally understand if you decide to watch the keynote and then watch the recording of the tutorial. It might be even better to join the tutorial because then we would have the chance to interact live with me, with Zachary, and then you might be able to catch up with the keynote later on because I guess that's not as interactive as our session would be. So it might be even better to join our session and then rewatch the keynote because I believe all the recordings of all the sessions are made available right after the session and yeah, it just makes it a
Yes,
little easier.
yeah. So the recordings will be available as soon as the airtime is able to process them. So it shouldn't be long. So thank you so much for your talk. I believe this. Will you be publishing these slides on the Discord, or you would rather
Yeah,
publish the
that's
slides
okay.
on?
It's the
Could
slides are actually quite huge, but I can try.
cool.
Maybe I'll because yeah,
Or
because the
maybe you can
animations in
you can.
PowerPoint. Hmm?
I think you can just leave a link about
Yeah,
of your GitHub project on the Discord.
yeah. That's
And
that's
if
that's
there
what
are
I'm going
any
to do.
question, cool. And if there are any questions after this, please feel free. Are you available on Discord to just answer questions about this?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks again for having me. Can't wait to do the tutorial 2.5 hours from now, and wish you all the best. Have a great PyData Global experience.